Okay, this is part 2 of special right triangles. So let's just move on to example 5. So example 5 says, hold on, is my audio good? It is. Okay, so example 5 is a word problem. It says an equilateral triangle has a side length of 10 inches. Find the length of the triangle's altitude. So we kind of have to draw an image. They don't give an image, so let's draw the image. So we have an equilateral triangle. So what that means, this would be an equilateral triangle is when all sides and all angles are the same, correct? So all the sides are the same and that all the angles are the same. So what do you think the angle of each angle? What do you think each angle of this equilateral triangle should add up to? Or it should be 60, right? Because 60 times 3 is 180, right? 60 times 3, because they have to be all the same. And it can't go over 180. So 60 times 3 is 180. So what they want is to find this altitude. Okay, so what you're doing is putting an altitude, which splits it into two congruent right triangles, right? From geometry. And this 60 now is going to be broken down into 30, and then this is going to be a 30, right? So now what we have is now what we have is two equilateral right 30, 60, 90 triangle. And then they also say that has a side length of 10 inches. So each side is 10 inches. So this is 10, this is 10. And if this whole thing is 10, that means that this length here has to be 5, and then this length is 5. So what we're going to do is find the length of this hypotenuse. I mean, not the length of this altitude. So if you want, you could split into two triangles. It is technically two triangles. So this is 90, this is 60, this is 30, right? Okay, so now we have a 30, 60, 90, and this length is 10. And this length is 5. So what we got to do is find out this length. We'll call it x, the altitude, right? So according to the 30-60 triangle, angle 30 has a side length of 5, or which is also called x. So x is 5. Well, let's call this not x, let's call it y, so we don't get confused. And then 60, so that's what we need. Angle 60 goes with this length, this leg, which is what we want. According to the rule, to find that it's x radical 3. So we know that our x value is 5. So it's 5 radical 3. So find the length of altitude. So altitude is 5 radical 3. Okay. Let's move on, or go ahead and absorb it, or press pause. I'm going to move on. Example 6. So find the value of x or y or both. So this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, right? Or a isosceles. So according to the rule, we got to find x, which is the hypotenuse. They don't ask you to find this, but I'm going to just say it anyway. This length here is 8 because these legs are the same. And then to find the hypotenuse, according to 45, 45, it's x radical 2. So that x represents one of our leg, which is 8. So that would be 8 radical 2, right? So your hypotenuse, or your x value, is 8 radical 2. Okay, so let's move on to example 7. So it says find the value of x or y or both. So on example 7, they am missing a piece. This is a isosceles. This length here is the same. I forgot to say that these are congruent. So this makes it a 45 triangle, right? So yeah, I was missing this piece of information. So could we easily find x? Yes. And this is going to be 14 because if this leg has to be congruent with this leg. And then to find the y value or the hypotenuse, you simply multiply it. It's your leg times radical 2. So our leg is 14 radical 2. Okay, so x is 14, and then your y value is 14 radical 2. Okay, let's do example 8. How many examples do we have? Okay, there's 10 examples, so this one. So on example 8, this is also an isosceles. Yeah, so these are the congruent. So this is a 45, 45. Okay, so this is a little bit different now. We are given the hypotenuse, right? 90 goes with 18, so that is technically the hypotenuse. And according to the 45, 45, the hypotenuse can be expressed as x radical 2. So what you could do, because we got to find x, you can set it up as 18 equals to x radical 2. And then just solve for x. So you would have to divide both sides by radical 2. So this cancels. So you're left with x equals 18 over radical 2. Now, we usually don't like the radical in the bottom, so we rationalize it by multiplying top and bottom by radical 2. So this is 18 radical 2 over 2, right? Because radical 2 times radical 2 is 2. And then 18 divided by 2 is 9. So this length here is 9 radical 2. This length here is 9 radical 2. So your x length is 9 radical 2. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Okay, number 9, example 9, find the value of x or y or both. So yeah. Example 9. Oh, I forgot to put this piece of information. This angle here is 45. This was given. I just didn't write it. So this is 45. So what does that mean? It is 45, 45 or an isosceles triangle. So we got to find x and y. Well, you don't really have to find y because x equals to y, right? If you know one leg, this will also be the same. But they only give us the hypotenuse. So how do you find one of your legs? So according to the rule, the hypotenuse is going to be x radical 2. So you can express this as 7 equals to x radical 2. And then solve for x. So I'm going to divide this by radical 2, and get x equals 7 over radical 2. rationalize the denominator. I get x equals 7 radical 2 over 2, right? On the bottom, this is just 2. And that's it. So because if you know one leg, this is also going to be the same because this is an isosceles. So you could say that y is 7 radical 2 over 2, and then x is also 7 radical 2 over 2. And that's it. Okay, let's do one last example. I think that's it. Okay, last one. Find the value of x or y or both. So let's first distinguish what kind of triangles this. This is angle 60, so this angle right here must be 30, right? So this is a 30, 60, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And they give us one leg, and then we got to find the hypotenuse and one of the other leg. We got to find x and we got to find y, right? So if you look at this triangle, angle 30 goes with side length 20, which makes this the smallest leg, right? So according to the rule, the smallest legs is just going to be x. And then, well, not this x. This is like the hypotenuse. It's just x. We call this x. And then we could find out 60, angle 60 goes with side length y, which is the largest leg. We can express that as x radical 3. So we said that x is 20, so 20 radical 3. The y could be expressed as 20 radical 3. And then finally, to find the hypotenuse, x, it's why is it hypotenuse is because x goes with angle 90. According to the rule, it's 2 times x. So it's really 2 times the smallest leg, which is 20. 2 times 20, which is 40. Okay. So yeah, x is 40, y is 20 right up 30. And that wraps it up for this section.